Some people say if it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press. I say if it's Sunday, it's LCJ Live. Welcome to the show. It's Sunday, July 16, 2023. Hope you're doing well. We're going to go through the box office. We're going to preview the biggest doubleheader of the summer, that is Barbie and Oppenheimer, which starts this weekend. And we're going to talk about more. As always, send in your questions and your comments. We're live. It's live. And right now, I have to tell you that Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is kicking things off with $80 million over its long open. $56.2 million of that coming from Friday through tomorrow night. I've got Barbie and Ken here with me on LCJ Live. So Mission Impossible, look, the last one opened to about $61 million for the 3-day. The previous one did about $55 in the 3-day. So we're looking at $56. So we're in between, but $80 million total since technically last Monday night early IMAX showings. It's a good number. Is it an outstanding number? I think Paramount and a lot of us were thinking it was going to do 90 to 100. Really thought 100 million was possible, especially with the Monday night start. So it's a little lower. Now, some people have commented to me over the last couple days and said, hey, look, Tom Cruise movies always do, 3.5 times. Or the last Mission Impossible movie did 220, and 220 is the highest grossing one of the franchise so far. We're at 80. Still a ways to go to get to 220 for a 2-hour and 43-minute movie when you've got other adult programming coming in the form of Oppenheimer and some other movies in the rest of the summer. I think when Mission Impossible goes down to one screen per multiplex, which is going to happen pretty soon, only with the long runtime, it may only get 3 showings in a day. Some places maybe 2 or just 1 showing a day. I don't know. I mean, I think it'll do more than 220. But it's not going to be a slam dunk, easy path to get there. I really don't think so. So I think Paramount should be going, look, we marketed the crap out of this movie, just like we sort of did with Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick, of course, opened to 124, ended up doing 720. This is not going to do anywhere close to 720. I think Paramount and Tom Cruise knew that going in, I think. But maybe they thought, ooh, off the Top Gun momentum, maybe we'll get more. But, yeah, didn't happen. For an okay Mission Impossible movie. I've never been the biggest fan of the Mission Impossible franchise. I saw Ghost Protocol. I didn't love Ghost Protocol. Just didn't... Look, he does all the stunts, but it just didn't blow me away. Story-wise, character-wise, emotion-wise, fun factor. Rogue Nation is better, and Fallout, I still think, is my favorite out of these, because I thought Fallout had emotional impact. It had the sequences, and it could have been the end. This one goes back down a little bit for me. There are some fun moments. It's never uninteresting. I like the sequences earlier on than the later on one. The train sequence, been there, done that. The plot, 2 halves of a key, come on. Come up with something else. Simon Pegg trying to solve some riddles with a bomb that could go off in an airport. Come on, we've seen that before in so many spy movies. And there's dated elements to it. So, yeah, I don't love Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I hope Part 2 is better. Part 2 will have Hannah Waddingham from Ted Lasso. We'll see what happens. Look at Sound of Freedom. Wow, $27 million this weekend. Bigger than last weekend's Friday through Sunday. And people are saying, oh my gosh, why? A, expanded to more theaters. And B, a bigger number than last weekend's 18 million Friday through Sunday because it had the long weekend of 40 million. So technically, if you say, okay, if it only opened Friday and the 40 million was Friday through Sunday, then it would have gone down a little bit to 27, which is a strong second weekend. So Sound of Freedom is up to 85.5. Wow. One of the absolute big hits of the summer. Insidious the Red Door, like I predicted here last week, had a big drop. Down to 13 million this weekend. Off of its 33 million start last weekend. It's at 58.1, still doing very well for Sony, but a big drop. The horror movies usually do that. So it went from 33 down to 13. Nearly lost to Indiana Jones this weekend, which in itself had a fairly big drop. I think it did 26.5 last weekend, down to $12 million for Indiana Jones. It's at 145.4. Look, the last Indiana Jones movie did that in 5 days. I mean, I maybe even 4.5. It's not going to get to 200, and Disney's got to be thinking, ugh, did we really need to do this? And look, for the Indiana Jones diehard fans, they needed this closure. This movie gives you closure. Don't expect another one. I mean, Harrison Ford said he's not going to do another one, but don't expect another Indiana Jones because it's not doing all that well. What is doing well, and what I said from the beginning, and finally people were listening to me, Elemental made 10 million last weekend, dropped just ever so slightly down to 8.7 million this weekend. It's at 125.3. It has made more money than Lightyear. It has made more money than The Good Dinosaur, which was the previous film from director Peter Sohn for Pixar that came out in 2015. So congratulations to Disney and Pixar. Open to 29.5. It's at 125.3. I told you it was going to be a long-term play. I told you it was going to be word of mouth. And look at what's happened. 125.3. I said if it had the same legs as Ratatouille, it would make a run at 130. It's going to pass 130. It could get to 140. Elemental's doing really well now. And Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse added 6.1 million this weekend. It's at 368.8. It is the 10th highest grossing animated movie of all time. Domestically. At least the last 25 years. You can't adjust everything for inflation. But when you're looking at animated movies from 1998 on, big time box office results, Spider-Man is now number 10. It passed The Secret Life of Pets from Illumination. It's about to pass last year's Minions: The Rise of Gru from Illumination to become number 9. I think it'll stay at number 9 because I think Frozen is at number 8, which did 400 million. And Spider-Verse is not going to get to 400 million, but Sony just thrilled out of their minds to get their first ever movie in the top 10 highest grossing animated movies of all time. Wow. Transformers Rise of the Beast, which did 5 million last weekend, a small drop to 3.4 this weekend. It's at 152.8. Let me tell you why. Because Transformers was paired with Mission Impossible in a bunch of drive-ins around the country. And drive-ins still matter for so many reasons. But the second showing, because Paramount wanted something paired with Mission Impossible, it's Transformers. A lot of drive-ins didn't get Transformers the first time around because many had deals with Disney for Little Mermaid for 3 weeks. And many people with multi-screens had The Flash and Elemental. They had to wait for those for both on the same day on the 16th, where they could not get Transformers on the 9th. So for many drive-ins, it's the first chance they get to show Transformers this summer. And having that as the second feature helped Transformers this weekend. 152.8. It'll try to get to 160. And a little better than the last couple Transformers movies, so maybe Paramount will continue and maybe continue on with the franchise with that surprise ending from the movie. Joyride, it had 5.9 last weekend, down to 2.6. That's a big drop. This weekend it's up to 10.6 million. And rounding out your top 10 this weekend is The Little Mermaid with another 2.4 million. It's at 293.9. I don't think Disney can get it to 300. That would take a lot. If they try to pair it with Haunted Mansion at drive-ins have already been showing Little Mermaid for months. I don't see it happening. It's going to come close to 300, but I don't think it'll get there. Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, out of the top 10 after 2 weeks. It's too bad. It's a good film. It's a fun film from DreamWorks. It's too bad that it has only made about $14-15 million. So when you look at this coming weekend, we'll get to it in a second, Barbie and Oppenheimer, but I want to also mention a couple other movies that opened this weekend. 680,000 for The Miracle Club, about 1,000 per screen. Movie's all right. And Theater Camp, which opened, everybody's saying 6 theaters. Wrong. Google it. It's in 7 theaters. It's in 4 in Los Angeles and 3 in New York City. 7 theaters. 287,000 for Theater Camp this weekend. Also a movie that was a Regal Monday Mystery movie. So if you really wanted to see Theater Camp, you could have taken an educated guess that it was going to be the Regal Monday Mystery movie, and you could have seen it for just $5 early, a few weeks ago. I saw it on, June 26th. Theater Camp will continue to expand to more theaters over the coming weeks. They Cloned Tyrone is in select theaters. It's on Netflix Friday. An excellent movie. Jamie Foxx is in it. John Boyega is in it. Mike Sargent and I review They Cloned Tyrone along with Mission Impossible on the latest episode of the Too Fast, Two Films podcast, which will be up soon at toofast2films.com. A documentary coming to Netflix on Wednesday called The Deepest Breath is very good. It's intense, it's tough to get through at times, but it's powerful. The Deepest Breath. Netflix and A24 teaming up on this documentary. It will be in the documentary feature conversation this award season. I have full confidence in that. The Deepest Breath. It's only PG, but it's intense. I don't think young kids should watch it. Yeah, it's about free diving and these athletes and the dangers of the sport and the true stories behind it. And it's powerful. The Deepest Breath. It's on Netflix Wednesday. The SAG-AFTRA strike is going on. It's having a major impact on the entertainment industry, including San Diego Comic-Con, which kicks off this week. A lot of panels have been canceled, but a lot of panels are still going on, and it'll be very interesting to see who goes and what happens at San Diego Comic-Con. So Barbie and Oppenheimer. I think Barbie's going to make a run at 100. There are people who are saying it's going to make 115. I think it's a little high, but it could get there. But I'm gonna go with 100. I think Warner Brothers would like that number. Of course, we estimated The Flash to do much more than it did. Some people thought The Flash from Warner Brothers was going to open to 100 million. It only opened to 55. It's made 107 total. I think Barbie can do 100 million. Oppenheimer is a wild card because it's a 3-hour film. It's an R-rated film, but it's Christopher Nolan. And the last time Christopher Nolan was in theaters, of course, was Tenet, when a lot of people were upset at Christopher Nolan. How quickly people forget. A lot of people were upset at Christopher Nolan for demanding that the movie still go to theaters. I went to see Tenet. I had to go out of state. I went to Vermont. I was one of only 6 people in the theater, kept my mask on the whole time, at a time when New York State still had its theaters closed, and when people were risking their lives to go see Tenet in the theater. But I went to it opening day, had to go see the movie, but I found Tenet to not be a memorable film. It's just kind of average. The visuals, I understand why it won the Academy Award for visual effects. There are some cool moments with it. But the story was really nothing new, had nothing new to say, and a whole lot of nothing-ish, not completely, but ish, when it came to Tenet. I've been back and forth on Christopher Nolan movies since The Dark Knight. I like The Dark Knight. I didn't love Inception. Inception, by the way, opened 13 years ago today. I like The Dark Knight Rises. I didn't love Interstellar. I like Dunkirk. I think Dunkirk's still my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. I didn't love Tenet. So if the pattern continues, I will like Oppenheimer, but we'll have to see. Of course, Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, and many others who will show up for smaller parts in it. Big cast, big expectations. This could be an award season play. A lot of people could go right away, but a lot of people might wait a little bit. Older audiences, older moviegoers, people will catch up on it in the award season or want to see it now and will want to see it again towards the end of the year. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Oppenheimer does. I think it will try for 50 million. That's about right where Dunkirk was. I know that's where Interstellar sort of was. That $50 million sweet spot is kind of where Christopher Nolan likes to be with non-Batman movies. Inception was sort of there. Dunkirk opened, yes, to $50.5 million back in 2017. Totaled 188, so a lot of people waited a week or two to go see Dunkirk or went a second time. Dunkirk also was a relatively short movie. It was like an hour 40 or an hour 45. So I do see a comment here from the Golden Oreos. Hey, LCJ, always been curious. How come you use Pez dispensers for LCJ Live? Are you a personal collector or do you like the candy? Personal collector of the Pez dispensers. Don't actually love the candy, but I have 400 or 500 Pez's of all kinds of different characters and people and animated characters especially that I collect. So I bring them out, but today it's the Toy Story 3 figures of Barbie and Ken. So Dunkirk, $50.5 million back in 2017. That's what it opened to. Interstellar, which was technically a Paramount release, even though Warner was sort of behind it, also totaled $188 million and opened to $47.5. So yeah, again, if you see a $40 to $50 million open for Oppenheimer, maybe it'll still get to that magic 188 total mark for Christopher Nolan. Inception did more than that. Inception, I think, did, what, 292? People wanted to go multiple times because they couldn't figure it out the first time, eh? If you wanted to see it another time, God bless you. But I couldn't do that. It opened to $63 million back in this very weekend in 2010, totaled 292, and yet Christopher Nolan did not get a Best Director Academy Award nomination for Inception. Had to wait all the way until Dunkirk to finally get on that Best Director ballot. Will it happen again for Oppenheimer? We won't know for 6 months. Will the movie be up for Best Picture? We won't know for 6 months. And then the Oscars isn't until like the 10th of March, which is way too late. Will Cillian Murphy be up for Best Actor? We won't know for 6 months. But they're getting this movie out there in the summertime. I know a good friend of mine said that if Dunkirk was released at the holidays instead of the summertime, that it would have been a slam dunk Best Picture, Best Director win for Christopher Nolan. And that's an interesting thought. Shape of Water was the main competition along with Three Billboards that year. Maybe if it was released later on, maybe it would have been the victory for Christopher Nolan. We will never know, but it could have happened. But Christopher Nolan likes his summertime. Even though Interstellar was November, he likes his summertime spots. Dunkirk, The Dark Knight Rises, Batman Begins, Inception. Yeah, most of the time it's been the summertime. Tenet was still the summertime, and he made it be the summertime, even though it was the end of August and Labor Day weekend in September. So we will see. I'm looking forward to seeing both movies, and I will have my reviews of both later this week at lights-camera-jackson.com, Twitter at LCJ Reviews, Instagram at lightscamjackson, 99.5 The River, youtube.com/lightscamerajackson. There is a new interview coming out tomorrow, and I will reveal tomorrow who it is with. And the disclaimer is there that it was done prior to the SAG strike. I will reveal who it is for a major new animated series. So you will look forward to seeing that interview tomorrow. And that is it for today's episode of LCJ Live. Thank you for watching. Have a good week. Support the movies, support the theaters, support the drive-ins. And I will see you next Sunday as we see if Barbie does 100 and Oppenheimer does 50 or more or less at the weekend box office. They will be your top 2 movies. Mission Impossible will go down to about 30. And Sound of Freedom could still make some money, but it might lose some screens with Barbie and Oppenheimer. But Sound of Freedom could still do about 17 million. We'll have to see. Thanks for watching LCJ Live. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.